If studying feels uncomfortable while scrolling, TikTok somehow lasts for hours, congratulations, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. The problem isn't your discipline, motivation, or work ethic. The real issue is that your dopamine has been captured. And today, I'm going to show you how to reclaim it and turn studying into something strangely addictive. Most people grow up believing dopamine is the chemical that makes you happy. But that's not true. Dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about pursuit. It's the signal your brain uses to decide whether an action is worth doing. The faster the reward arrives, the more compelling that action becomes. And that's where everything starts to break down. Apps like TikTok deliver tiny bursts of novelty every single moment. Studying, meanwhile, might take half an hour before you feel even a hint of progress. So, when your brain chooses the phone over the textbook, it's not a moral failure. It's simply doing what it evolved to do. Maximize reward with minimal delay. Here is the good part. The same system that pulls you toward instant gratification can be retrained. You don't need to fight your brain, you just need to guide it back toward the kind of reward that actually improves your life. And it all begins with how you enter a study session. 1. Reset your nervous system before you learn. Most people sit down to study when their brain is overstimulated. Loud music, constant notifications, short-form videos, non-stop app switching. Your dopamine levels are already spiking before the textbook even opens. Then you suddenly force your brain into a slow, quiet environment. Of course it resists. It's like stepping out of a packed stadium and into a silent library in 1 second. The contrast is painful, so before you start studying, give your brain a short landing zone. Just a few minutes, no screens, no loud sounds, no stimulation. Sit still, breathe, drink some water. You're not trying to be mindful or spiritual. You're simply lowering the background noise, so learning doesn't feel like punishment from the very first minute. When your dopamine baseline settles, studying becomes noticeably easier to approach. 2. Shift your state with a small activation. Once the noise has calmed down, don't jump straight into deep focus. The brain doesn't switch from rest to high concentration instantly. It needs a cue, a transition. Just 1 or 2 minutes of light activation is enough. A few slow breaths, stretching your arms or back, splashing cold water on your face, taking a handful of steps around the room. These small physical actions send a clear message to your brain. We're shifting into SIPOR, intentional mode. Dopamine and noradrenaline rise slightly, just enough to help you enter focus without resistance. It's like warming up before a workout. You don't need intensity, you need momentum. 3. Create an early win with a micro-task. This is where the real shift begins. Your brain hates starting big tasks, they feel overwhelming and vague. But it loves completing small tasks because those create immediate feedback, the exact thing dopamine responds to best. So, instead of forcing yourself to begin with the hardest chapter, start with something so small your brain can't object. Read the first 2 or 3 lines. Write 1 sentence summarizing what you'll study. Answer a simple question. Connect 2 ideas you already understand. These tiny actions take 1 or 2 minutes, but they trigger something powerful, an instant sense of progress. And the moment you feel progress, dopamine shows up early. That early reward convinces your brain almost subconsciously. Starting wasn't painful. I can keep going. This is the turning point where studying stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling manageable. 4. Study in natural focus cycles, not long marathons. Most people try to study for hours straight and then wonder why they burn out. The brain simply doesn't work like that. It operates in waves, periods of deep attention followed by short resets. A healthy study rhythm looks like this: 15-20 minutes of deep focus, 60-90 seconds of micro-recovery. During the focus phase, you stay with one task, no multitasking, no tab hopping. During your micro break, you stand up briefly, breathe, stretch, or look away from your desk, anything that doesn't involve screens. These tiny breaks stabilize dopamine, they prevent your focus from collapsing. And most importantly, they create a rhythm your brain can predict. Effort relief, effort relief. Predictability is dopamine's best friend. Follow this rhythm for just 3 or 4 cycles, and you'll feel it. Your brain stops resisting you. It starts cooperating. 5. The long-term shift, craving progress instead of stimulation. Every time you repeat this sequence, reset, activate, small win focus cycle, your brain adapts. Neurons change, connections strengthen. What once felt heavy or boring begins to feel smoother, more familiar, even rewarding. This is neuroplasticity in action. Over time, dopamine starts attaching itself not to instant stimulation, but to clarity, understanding, completion, and momentum. You start to crave progress. You start to enjoy forward movement. You begin to trust your ability to learn. At that point, studying stops being something you force yourself to do. It becomes something your brain expects, even wants, because it now sees learning as a reliable source of reward. That's the moment you stop fighting your brain and start working with it.